And we are live. Welcome to this March Madness preview here on the podcast. I, of course, am the G-Man. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Matty D. What's up, buddy?
Well, one of the best pre-games of the year today, as the brackets have been unleashed.
Yeah, one of the weirder selection shows that moved over to TBS, and the move from network TV to cable really decided to spice things up, I guess.
I mean, I guess they did. I wasn't a big fan of the news show as compared. I spent a lot of the time watching ESPN. I thought they gave a little more instant analysis and reaction.
Yeah.
And obviously it was the first time doing it at TBS. There were definitely some technical errors that we both talked about in terms of audio and stuff, not necessarily coming through, which I think is a problem.
Yeah, if you didn't watch it, it started off right away with the audio. Like you could see Greg Gumbel's lips moving, but it was coming out a little bit delayed. He was kind of all over the place in terms of saying words like 21st when he's saying the rankings and seeds and stuff like that.
Right.
At one point after they revealed one region, he goes, "Yo, we got more brackets," or something to that effect. He said "yo" though. We had to rewind the TV back. Yeah, I agree with you though. I didn't like the concept of it. Doing the all 68 teams, they did it conference champions first, which is fine, doing in alphabetical order, but then jumping in and doing the at-large teams also in alphabetical order. Like the only team they pointed out on CBS that didn't make it while like in the midst of doing everything was Louisville.
Okay.
But there were other schools that, like, if you didn't watch college basketball all year and like this is supposed to be your first step in, because everybody makes a bracket, everybody and their mother. Like you have no idea. Like Middle Tennessee didn't make it, St. Mary's didn't make it, Notre Dame, which they talked about them too. Like they didn't make it, or like they got into a little more as they started to once the bracket was fully revealed and they brought on like people like Charles Barkley and people like that. I didn't watch the ESPN part, so I'm sure they probably had this too. I know I've seen some viral stuff go live, but it would have been better. I saw on Twitter and Third and Girl suggested it too, of having, teams that are up there, and as they're getting on the board, take them off of the bubble, have a visual representation of the bubble on there. Gotcha. So that might have been a good idea. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, was the ESPN one, were they basically just as soon as it was on CBS, ESPN got it and gave their instant reactions?
Yeah, basically. And they did, because they were just announcing the team, they say every time they figured out a bubble team that was close. So yes, and they gave their instant reaction, so you kind of figure out who was upset, who wasn't. Jay Billis had some stuff to say pretty quick, which I liked. I like the instant reactions. I want to hear, just listening to the teams. I'm with you. The problem is you don't necessarily know who's out and who's in as we go by some numbers. You're trying to keep up, but it definitely takes a little bit of work, to do so.
Yeah, it was definitely a little bit of a bummer seeing. Just not knowing, because even in the moment I forgot, like Middle Tennessee, I didn't think of to look for their name, and it was in alphabetical order. It was really easy to do it that way, but so is the the game, I guess. But enough belly aching about the selection show. Let's talk about the actual bracket itself. We look at the first four coming up this Tuesday in Dayton. Shout out to Dayton. They host it every single year. Good for them that they get it. And they used to actually get, actual like Thursday and Friday games.
Right.
Then just took on the mantle of being the opening round, which thankfully is called that now and not the first round like it was for a couple of years. But so
I'm still not. I don't love them, the first four.
Okay.
I haven't. I just think it's I get it. They want to get things on TV.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a lot. It's like Thursday night football to me. I just think it's a little unnecessary. But
yeah, it's one of those things you just throw on in the background. I mean, there's other sports going around against it that are probably better to view, especially looking at it now. You got Tuesday of the 1-16 game matchup, the LIU Brooklyn versus Radford. Radford being one of the first teams into the tournament off of a buzzer beater to win their conference. And then
Right.
UCLA St. Bonaventure, which that actually might be a good game. But I agree with you. It's one of those things. It's on at 9:00 on a Tuesday. You're not really ready and raring to go for college basketball, especially just with 2 games on that night. Same thing with Wednesday. You got NC Central playing Texas Southern. And then Arizona versus Syracuse. And Syracuse, shout out to Greg, and Arizona State for that matter. Those are probably 2 of my biggest surprises that they made the bracket.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. I thought that not only did a couple things I was surprised about. I was surprised they even got close. They were nowhere near anybody's list. ASU maybe. What bothered me more is I didn't even think they got the first 4 out even close.
No.
Baylor and Notre Dame were in first 4 out. Now, I thought St. Mary's and USC both had great cases to be in.
Yeah.
But Middle Tennessee, not in there. Oklahoma State, not in there. Oklahoma State beat Kansas twice. They beat Oklahoma. They beat West Virginia on the road. That's a top-level team right there. And now, look, I'm not saying that they're more deserving than, say, Oklahoma, but I think they're more deserving than Baylor or Notre Dame. I think you have to drop them in to at least the first 4. And Louisville wasn't even in the first 4. I thought USC – I just struggle with the fact USC went all the way to the Pac-12 title game, and Arizona State gets in instead of them.
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy how that worked out. Arizona State wasn't even a team that was mentioned around if you were following along with Joe Lunardi's bracketology or anything like that. And Oklahoma State seemed like they were safe. I mean, it baffles me. Like you said, they beat Kansas twice. The overall number, or no, they're not the over. That would be UVA, but one of the number 1 seeds in the tournament. I mean, right. I don't know. I don't know how they're thinking of that. I mean, we thought this 2 years ago when Syracuse made it, and they went all the way to the Final Four. So it's not necessarily the craziest thing in the world, but the ACC was a great conference this year, but it was an off year for Syracuse, to even just say the least.
Mm-hmm. And I will also say this. The other weird thing is 3 of the biggest teams left out of the field, Louisville, Oklahoma State, and USC, are connected to the investigation with the FBI. And Arizona and Auburn are seated slightly lower than expected, especially Arizona, and they're also connected. I just thought it was interesting.
I didn't even think about that. That's a good point. Auburn being a 4 isn't that egregious to me. What's Arizona? They're
a 4, dude.
They're a 4 as well. Yeah. Arizona, I would have said would be closer to like a 2 or a 3.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But that's a really good point. I didn't even think about that. But yeah, well, let's so kind of the format for tonight. We're gonna go through each game. We start and kind of just give our quick analysis, quick picks, if you will, because there's a lot of games to get through and we only have so little time. But we wanted to get it out Sunday night so that you guys can get an idea of what's going on. If you're constructing your bracket, if you want to give us all the criticism in the world, please feel free to fire that our way. Send us a DM. But we start with the first 4. I don't really know too much about LIU, Brooklyn, or Radford, aside from Radford hitting a buzzer beater to get into the tournament. Matt, do you know anything about either of these schools?
I mean, I think Radford probably has a better shot in this game. Mm-hmm. They've got Carlick Jones is a pretty decent player there, but for the most part, he plays for Radford. The Highlanders. But for the most part, no. The Blackbirds of LIU Brooklyn, which some crazy names here. That actually has Derek Kellogg as their head coach. He was at UMass for quite a while. Oh. So he's a pretty talented coach. I would hope that. So to me, I like them with that, kind of having a guy who's maybe been there a little bit at UMass. Not that it's a great program, but it's had some success. So I'm a big fan of them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, in that case, if we're going to make a pick, I'd probably go with Radford just because LIU Brooklyn's under 500. So really easy, or not easy enough. Thankfully these games don't count for your overall pool, because that'd be crazy town to have to be able to make these kind of picks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, right.
But you have a pick for this one?
I'm going to go LIU Brooklyn, like the Blackbirds with that experienced coach. We'll get it done.
I like it. We move on to the other game Tuesday night, 9:10. You can also watch this on True TV. St. Bonaventure versus UCLA. UCLA was a team up there similar to USC that I thought was on the bubble, but kind of got in there. I was a little shocked to see them in the first four. But St. Bonaventure, solid season in the Atlantic 10. I think I'm going to go with UCLA in this one just because they're, I think, a little more well-rounded. Not to discount the A10 or anything, but I would just say probably just a little closer. So I'm going to go with UCLA in this game.
This is the one game I'm going to tune in for, and for a couple of reasons. I think UCLA and St. Bonaventure's, I think they both deserve to be in the tournament. I think the Bonnies over UCLA. And I'm actually really excited for not only this game, but the next game they're going to play. I'm going to take, in a tight one, the St. Bonaventure over UCLA. Now, UCLA has Aaron Holiday, who stepped in for Lonzo Ball. He's all Pac-12 first team, league all defensive team. I think he's very good. Ooh. Now, this team did beat Kentucky and Arizona, but they lost to Oregon and got swept by Colorado. I think they're all over the map. Okay. And so the reason I'm going to jump with the St. Bonnie's bandwagon is they have an excellent, maybe arguably one of the top 10 best backcourts in all of basketball in Jalen Adams and Matt Mobley. These guys are studs from behind. They both shoot the three very well.
Yeah, look at that.
So I like them to win this game, and then stay tuned for my next prediction. I love guards. I love guards who are good, and I love a tandem guard like this grouping has. I got the Bonnies all the way in this one, but I think it's a great game. And
awesome.
I think UCLA puts up a good fight.
All right, gets the Matty D seal of approval for a must-watch on Tuesday night that features a Sixers-Pacers game here in Philadelphia. So, Matt's saying something. We move on to the Wednesday games, though. We have, first up, another matchup of 16 seeds. You think it's probably, just a quick aside before we get to the NC Central Texas Southern analysis, you think it's just that people are coming home from work, eating dinner, so they figure out we'll throw on, maybe they won't watch this game, and then the better game is on at 9? You think that's sort of their thought when they're scheduling this out?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it's nice for these teams to have their moment because if they're, if you're one of the 16 seeds that doesn't play a play-in game, you're going to get smoked, and the whole storyline's going to be about the number 1 seed kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I think it's kind of a shame to an extent, but I also think it's nice for them because they get their moment. But it can be tough for basketball to watch.
Yeah. But I mean, if you're the big junkie of it, you'll tune in. But
right.
So we got Texas Southern coming out of the SWAC, beating one of my favorite logos in college basketball in their conference championship, the Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions. Google that one. It's pretty awesome. I used to play as them in college hoops 2K8 way back in the day in high school.
Bring it back.
Playing NC Central out of the MEAC. Texas Southern also under 500, 15-19, and they came in second place in their conference.
Right.
They feature, it looks like a couple good scoring guards. NC Central looks a little more well-rounded, if I had to just give a quick analysis to it, but it looks like Texas Southern can score.
Mm-hmm.
So I might go with Texas Southern on this one just from that.
No, yeah, I actually like that pick. Another interesting, we talked about how LIU Brooklyn had a bigger name coach. Well, a couple things. Texas Southern has Mike Davis. Now, Mike Davis succeeded Bob Knight at Indiana, got fired, went to UAB, got fired, so hasn't really had the best run, but had some big program experience. This is the 4th NCAA trip in 5 years for him. So kind of comfortable down there in Texas Southern. And North Carolina Central has a formal alma mater, an alum on their squad, Lavelle Monton, who has led them 3rd in the past 5 years as well. He might be a guy to get a new head coaching job next year. So one older coach who's had some success finally, and a younger coach here. But I like Texas Southern. I'm with you, Jordy. I think they're going to be outscoring North Carolina Central. I also think it doesn't matter because I think they're going to get whacked in the next round. But I think it's something.
Is that the winner who play? Is that who plays UVA?
No, because they're no. Who do they play? Xavier.
They play Xavier.
Now, I'm not super high at Xavier, but I think they're good enough and tough enough to at least get through one of those two squads that comes in.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so we move on to, as we mentioned before, two of our more surprising teams in the tournament. But that doesn't mean that shouldn't be should not be an unexciting game. Arizona State versus Syracuse. Matt, break this one down for me. Sorry, Greg is an alum of Syracuse, so I had him on the brain.
No problem, no problem. I mean, once again, I don't think either of these teams are very deserving to be in, but Syracuse basically lives on the bubble. I'm taking. I mean, a couple things. Nothing against Arizona State. They started out super hot this year. They beat Xavier, neutral site, beat Kansas at Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
They were rolling. They were rock and roll, but their shooting percentages were super high, 50% from three. They've won one of their past 6 games. So, with that being said, I like Syracuse and that zone. They play a little slower than Arizona State. So I do think they take this game. Tyus Battle and Frank Howard are pretty good. I think they're good enough to win this playing game. Exciting enough for me to maybe have on in the background while I do something else.
Yeah. No, I would agree with that, especially Wednesday night. You're preparing for the big day on Thursday. I agree. I picked Syracuse. Arizona State, I mean, I was really much more shocked with them being in than I was with Syracuse. I thought they were a little they were closer to the bubble than I thought that the Sun Devils were. So rocking and rolling with the Orangemen, I am. So that does it for the first 4 from Dayton. We move on to the big bracket, the main show, if you will. You want to start with the overall number 1? Go with the Virginia. What is it? The South they're in? Yeah, the South region.
Against University of Maryland, Baltimore County.
UMBC.
The Retrievers.
The Retrievers. Mm-hmm. Logo being a dog.
Right. Don't think they have a ton to offer here. No, Virginia has not given up 70 points has not given up 70 points or more all year.
Yeah.
So just looking at that right off the bat, I think they're very, very, very good. They're uber efficient and effective. But they've been like that way for a few years. Some would argue that the 2016 team is better, and they've only been to the Elite Eight one time. And he doesn't really have a Malcolm Brogdon or someone along those lines, Justin Anderson, to carry him through.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is, do they have somebody who can knock it down late? Do they have a go-to guy? Can they rebound well enough? Obviously, they win this game, but just giving you some insight on the next game.
Oh, for sure.
Next game after that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, so we move on to who we think might be their opponent. It's Creighton versus Kansas State, the 8-9. Coming into the tournament, they're ranked 33rd and 35th, so very close in terms of just sort of the voting pool. I like Creighton a little more in this just because Kansas State hasn't done very well against top opponents. That's not to say anything against them. They did make a run towards the Big 12 final. But I'm going to go with Creighton in this one.
Yeah, this is tough. Creighton is a different team before one of their big guys got injured. Martin Krampelji, who was 6'9" sophomore, very he was offensive, could defend. They really haven't been that great since. I do really like Marcus Foster, 20.3 points a game, can shoot from 3. They're incomplete without that guy. This is a tough one for me. God, I'm going to go with Creighton as well. I think they're a better team than Kansas State, but boy, I think it's close.
Okay.
I think it's I love the 8-9 games. They're like some of my favorite games to watch.
Yeah.
They should just be back and forth and back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
They have big wins and they've also struggled. So both teams, Kansas State and Creighton, are both kind of back and forth. Once again, I like Creighton here though.
Yeah. So move on. The 5-12 matchup. Always one to look out for. 12 seeds. There's always one that beats a 5. I think there's only been 1 or 2 years in the last 15 where a 12 seed hasn't beaten a 5. The first one we look at is Kentucky, who made a nice run in the SEC tournament against Davidson, home or the alma mater of Stephen Curry. Davidson, pretty good defensive team, it looks like here. Just giving a quick glance over the team. It could be an interesting one to look at. Kentucky, pretty good. Can step up big time when they need to. So I'm going to go with the Wildcats in this, but I would think Davidson keeps it close.
Yeah, I mean Davidson's an excellent point shooting team.
Yeah.
What I like about Kentucky is they're really not backing their way into this tournament. They dominated in the SEC, in a very deep SEC, which I think people are also forgetting. We talk about how great Kentucky teams have been before, but the SEC has never been as good as it was this year.
Exactly.
They don't necessarily have top block, draft picks, like lottery picks this year, but boy, they're physical, they're athletic, and they can defend. If they can keep a game low scoring, I think they've got a great shot. I really like him in this game. I do like Davidson, but against a lot of other 5 seeds, but not this 5 seed. So just keep it slow. If you're Kentucky, use that athleticism to win.
Yeah. Boom, boom, boom. We move on though. Arizona, who we mentioned, is a 4 seed playing Buffalo. Buffalo, a highly ranked 13 seed. They're 38th in the AP poll. Arizona, a 15 or 15th overall in the AP rankings coming into the tournament. I'm going to go with Arizona. I think that they've kind of figured it out once a little more of the dust has settled from the investigation that's been going on. So I think that they avoid the upset in the first round here.
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo, they're won like 6 straight. In pretty convincing fashion. They're pretty deep in terms of their scoring, but I'm really high on this Arizona squad. I think they're woefully, almost criminally underseeded to be a 4th seed and win the Pac-12 over, with teams that we're going to get to ahead of them. I really struggle with that. They might have the best player in college basketball, honestly, in DeAndre Ayton. He's been crazy good.
Yeah.
And they've got some other guys as well, and they're kind of playing a little bit for their head coach. So I really like them here.
Yeah.
They're a top 30 defense. This team can just play. I'm very big on them. So we'll see what happens, but I like them to easily handle Buffalo here.
Very nice. Very, very nice. We move on. Coming out of the ACC, the Miami Hurricanes, who had a pretty good year, I would say. Like we talked about, not a down year, but an interesting year in the ACC. They face Loyola Chicago, and this might be a popular pick for upset central. It seems a lot of people seem to be high on Loyola.
Right. Well, Miami's similar. The Miami basketball team is similar to the Miami football team. They've been kind of playing dangerously all year. Their final 4 games of the regular season were decided by a total of 8 points. So definitely playing a type. I like the Ramblers here. You got to remove the fact they've got a hyphen in their name. They're 23rd in defense, and they're pretty defense. They're pretty good offensively, man to man. They beat Florida on the road. 40% of their 3-pointers they've made. I like them because I think they're going to keep it close, and I think they're going to be the big upset of the week, or at least early, against Miami. I really like them in this game, actually, and I like them even to test at the next round. I don't think they'll get through, but I like this team.
Yeah, I do too. I like them a lot. Like you said, the very good defensive team, and I think Miami's kind of has been that's a great analogy to the football team, living and dying on the edge. Keep it moving though. We go to number 3 Tennessee, or a 3 seed Tennessee, playing Wright State in for the first time since 2007. As an aside, they kept mentioning when the last time teams had been in the tournament. It kind of annoyed me when they're like, "Oh, first time since 2016." You only missed 1 year of the tournament. Why is that a big deal? They said that with a ton of teams that like, first time since 2015, 2014. Like, Wright State, it's been over 10 years. Good job on you that you actually got back. Like, we don't care that it's been 2 years since Davidson got in.
Right.
Anyway.
The Raiders of Wright State. I mean, I agree with you. What you're saying. It's cool, always cool, but the Raiders of Wright State are going to struggle in this game.
Yeah. I agree.
They don't have a lot of deep 3-point shooting. And Tennessee, I don't think a lot of people know about.
I like Tennessee a lot.
Right. They beat Purdue and North Carolina State. They swept Kentucky. They can shoot from 3, and they got one of my favorite guys. Admiral Schofield is his name. He can play, and I think this team has the opportunity to potentially make a run and have a shot to get to that Elite 8. They're also arguably the third best defensive team behind Cincinnati and Virginia. So, by the way, how about this? 1, 2, 3. Arguably the three best defensive teams all in the same bracket. We could have some very boring games, at least offensively, in this bracket because Cincinnati and Tennessee and Virginia are all there. So something to think about.
Yeah, that's just a very good point. Some very Big Ten style of hoops, if you will.
Right.
But yeah, I'm gonna go with Tennessee as well. I really like them. I think the Elite Eight effort is, or the Elite Eight prediction is spot on. I think they could really make a run at it. We keep it moving though. Number 7, Nevada facing Texas in a 7-10 matchup, which is also another one that you always have to keep an eye out for. Obviously, it seems a little more of a spread just because, 7's 3 larger than 10 versus 1 larger of 8, 9. But it's always an interesting dynamic when that game comes together because even the 10 seed can make a run at it too. That being said, I do like Nevada a lot in this game. I don't think Texas necessarily has the punch that Shaka Smart had when he was at VCU and he was making those runs. So I'm going to go with the Wolfpack here. Well,
we're going to be very different on this one.
Okay.
Nothing against Nevada. They might be one of the most inconsistent teams. They are a top 10 offense and a defense that ranks worse than Northeastern or Bradley. So I think they're a very fun game, but they lost by 17 points in their semifinal to a team that had no at-large argument whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And I like Texas because I think, well, not only you have some experience with Shaka Smart, that's the first thing to think about there. And I know you brought his name up. I think that was good by you to do that. They've also faced quite a bit of issues and injuries. There are a couple players who are ineligible. How about their stud freshman, Mohamed Bamba, has been out with a toe injury.
Yeah.
They beat West Virginia in overtime. They're a little resilient, and I'm a big Bamba guy. Is it Bamba? Bamba? It's Bamba.
Bamba. I think it's Bamba.
Yeah. But this Texas team is talented enough with Shaka Smart. I like them to beat Nevada here in a mini upset and drive to the next round.
Okay.
I think Bamba inside, if he's healthy, can swat some balls against that excellent Nevada offense and take one. Don't think it matters, but I think they can do it.
Yeah, that's kind of the shitty thing is Cincinnati's just so goddamn good.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the next game, Cincinnati versus Georgia State. Yeah, it's a pretty easy pick for me with Cincinnati. They're very good, and
they're the second best defense.
Yeah.
In this tournament, but they might be the nastiest defense. Like
that's probably the best way to put it.
They're just mean. They're like a mean. You don't want to play them because it's not going to go great. Like, now, by the way, we will not get. So, do you remember Georgia State?
No.
Okay, so Georgia State is the team that won on a buzzer beater 2 or 3 years ago, and their coach was on the push cart because he had a leg injury and he fell over, and his son hit the game winner.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, his son Hunter went in the first round to the Celtics. Kind of fizzled out, but just to give you a little flash in the past there.
Little insight.
I thought their name rang a bell to me, and like I said, I think Cincinnati though. Oh man, Mick Cronin's team they're just big time defensively. Now they're not great offensively. Like they are Virginia without an offense. So if you don't get intimidated by their defense, you can beat them. But man,
it's a good way to put it.
But man, they're nasty. They're a nasty team to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't know if we're going to look. We can, if you want to, look further in and go to the next rounds, but obviously we'll have more time to do that as the week goes on.
Right.
But I think it's kind of stinks that the Cincinnati-Tennessee game, assuming both go there, would be in the Sweet 16 and not later in the tournament.
Right. I mean, I think I don't disagree with Cincinnati as a 2. No. It's hard because I think all the 2s are pretty deserving. You could argue maybe you could switch Duke for somebody if you didn't think they were that good, but Cincinnati had the argument to be a 1. I
No.
actually think that. I mean, I didn't see
Okay.
North Carolina with 9 losses or Purdue with their early exit, but Cincinnati had to beat Wichita State, and they had to get through their conference tournament, which they won. You could argue to put them in over Xavier. I think you really could. I think they're that good. I think they're highly underrated for some reason. People are overlooking them.
Okay.
So yeah. Mm-hmm.
No, I like it a lot. Yeah, I think that's a hot pick of going far. But let's move on to the West region. That's Xavier is the number 1 seed. As we mentioned, they'll play the winner of NC Central and Texas Southern. I think this is a pretty easy one to make. Xavier takes the win there, but I think the Xavier team, they lost to Providence in that wild ending in the Big East tournament, but I think they could make a little bit of a run. I think they got a nicer draw, to put it lightly.
I mean, I actually think that. Well, we'll talk about a team in a second here. I almost think that. They have some Trevon Bullitt. I remember him a couple years back as a freshman in the NCAA tournament. Was pretty good. He's a stud. They've got a ton of offensive firepower. Them versus Cincinnati would be like a fascinating game for me to watch. They have some history there too. I mean, I like him in this game. I think it's an easy victory here for him.
Yeah, for sure. So the next game, the 8-9 of this, is Missouri and Florida State. Both interesting teams. Both can really put up some numbers in terms of offense and decent defenses too. I mean, Florida State's isn't the best, but they can step up when it comes down to it. I do like Missouri in this one a little more than Florida State, I'd say.
Missouri, to me, is the biggest dark horse now in the tournament with Michael Porter Jr. back. All right. Now, they have been dominant. He's the number 1 recruit in the country, arguably a projected top 10 pick who could win, but he's a stud if he's healthy.
Yeah.
And they played all year without him. He played 2 minutes in the opener before he got shut down. So this team is now in the tournament. I really like Missouri with Porter Jr. to kind of flash a little bit here. We'll see. I'm just saying. I think there's something brewing there.
Okay.
And don't be surprised if they do something big early in this tournament.
Okay.
So I have them taking out Florida State, and then I have something else coming later. So we'll just leave it at that.
Ooh, okay, I like it. But we'll just move on right on then. Ohio State, number 5 seed, taking on the Jackrabbits of South Dakota State. Ohio State, an interesting season this year. We talked about the Big Ten last time, of just kind of a down year for them overall. Not a ton of teams getting into the tournament, but I think this is a pretty easy 5/12. With Ohio State winning. Something tells me don't sleep on the Jackrabbits, but I think Ohio State's got this one.
You gotta find that 5/12.
Yeah.
Every year they say it, and this is where I jump to right away. They have a potential All-American, the Jackrabbits do, and Mike Daum, 23.8 points per game. He averaged a triple-double, shoots well all over the place. They're very deep. Ooh, man. I think they're going to get the upset here over that 5 seed, Ohio State. Ohio State kind of limped into the tournament this year, and I had to pick one, and they kind of jumped out at me as that best potential upset 5/12. So I'm taking the Jackrabbits.
All right.
We'll see.
Love it. I love it. All right. Yeah. Well, we move on then to the 4-13 game. Gonzaga coming out of the West Coast Conference, playing UNC Greensboro, the Spartans. Gonzaga, pretty good season, I would say, overall from them. I'm going to take them here. I think UNC Greensboro could potentially put up some points, but I think Gonzaga's defense shuts them down pretty early.
Yeah, I really like the Zags team. They're kind of flying. Now, obviously, they're missing some of their bigs down low, but they've got more. I think they're actually a little bit more versatile athletically. They've got a number of, that 6'8" to 6'11" range kind of guys. They've got a big. Killian Tilly is his name. 6'11", can shoot the three. Made 50% of his 3-pointers, plus a pretty decent defense. I don't know if they have the same guys as last year. I don't know if their guards are going to be as good, but early on, I think they smoke UNC Greensboro here and move on to the next round pretty quick.
Okay. Yeah. I think that next round Gonzaga, no matter who they play, since we made different picks, I think they have a pretty good shot of moving on.
Right.
The
I agree there. I think they're almost I'm almost considering them a mortal lock for the Sweet 16. I just like that program too. So we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. The other side of the Western Regional, start with the 6th seed Houston Cougars, who I don't know. I mean, it's tough to try to figure out all the different seeding. I thought maybe they're a little underseeded, taking on San Diego State, who was the team that did knock off Nevada, bursting a number of bubbles and getting into this tournament. I do like Houston a lot, though. I'm going to take them over San Diego State.
Yeah, definitely. I'm with you. I think they got hurt as well. I think Houston got hurt as well. I think they got underseeded here too a little bit.
Yeah.
They actually beat Nevada twice in 6 days.
Did they really?
Yes. And so San Diego State's coach is so Steve Fisher, the former coach of Michigan during their Fab Five run, was at San Diego State. Now it's Brian Dutcher, one of his assistants there. 9 straight wins, 2 wins over Nevada. They beat New Mexico. This team can play. I still like Houston. I'm with you, but I think that might be one of the more fun, surprising games of the weekend, of the early games here.
Yeah, that'd be pretty awesome to see. Speaking of Michigan, though, we moved to them. They're 3 seed taking on Montana. Michigan with a incredible run to the Big Ten championship a week and a half ago now. I think it's a pretty straightforward matchup. Am I wrong to think that, Matt?
No, not at all. The only concern I have for any Big Ten team is they haven't played in so long.
Yeah.
This team, 11-game win streak coming in, Michigan. Montana's not a terrible team, but they're not going to be able to compete, I think, with Michigan. They've got all types of talent. They've got bigs. They've got bigs who can shoot. Mo Wagner is 6'11", 42% of his threes, and he shot a ton. They can spread the floor. They've got just enough talent at the guard position, and they're hot. Now, I think this game is going to be important, though. It's going to be a game I'm keying in on because I'm very high on Michigan right now.
Yeah.
How do they do against this game in Houston is going to decide how they do moving forward, I think, and it's going to be a tough one to see if they're still hot. Not necessarily tough as they're going to win, but I want to see how they win. Do they dominate? Are they locked in? That kind of thing. So it's going to be big, but I'm a big fan of this Michigan squad this year. They've got some great toughness defensively and some ton of offensive versatility. They just spread you out.
Yeah, they
it's
do.
Like a fan. They go 5 wide. Anybody who's driving, there's nobody in the paint. That's what they did to Purdue. They pulled away Purdue's excellent bigs, and they just sliced and diced inside.
And they did that with Michigan State as well.
Right, exactly. If you can spread, look, they're like, think about Golden State. If you can spread 5 wide and allow nobody to hang home in the middle, it's too hard to stay in front of the athletes out there today.
Yeah, I think another 3 seed. I think that's poised for a bit of a run.
Right.
As much as I like Houston and think they're underseeded, I just think Michigan's a very, very good 3 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, we got number 7 or a 7 seed Texas A&M facing Providence. Providence, who knocked off Xavier and almost pulled it out against Villanova in a wild Big East championship game from Saturday night. I like this matchup a lot, and I'm having a bit of a tough time picking it. I haven't really picked a lot of upsets. Actually, I don't think I picked one. I'm going to go with Providence in this one, though. I think they have the means to pull out another one out of their hat.
Yeah, I really like Providence too. I think Texas A&M has a ton of talent. Might be one of the most talented teams in the country, but so inconsistent. And I like Providence. They've been hot. I mean, hot. I know. Here's the thing: they went 5-4 to finish the regular season, but they had to beat a ton of good teams, and they beat Nova. That's how you get in. And they beat Creighton and they beat Xavier. That's how you secure your bid. Yeah. They didn't know they were going to get a bid. And instead of coming out here and losing to end the season, they ended the season hot. And you know what? At the end of the day, you hate to say it, but the end of the season, you would assume it's going to matter a little more than the beginning. Maybe not totally true, obviously, because of Oklahoma and over Oklahoma State. But I like Providence here, too. I think Providence is going to be a tough out. They're nasty.
Yeah, they are pretty good. I mean, that Big East, the whole tournament itself was fun to watch. It was fun to see just who could come out of it. I mean, there was more magical runs just coming from it. I mean, in Providence encapsulated it obviously making the championship game. But I think Big East teams are ones to keep an eye out for in this tournament. But wrapping up the West Regional, you got UNC as the 2 seed facing Lipscomb. I think this is a pretty straightforward game. Break it down a little bit, or at least break down North Carolina for us so we can have an idea of them.
Yeah, I mean, nothing against Lipscomb. I'm glad they're here in the tournament. But they got Garrison Matthews, 22.1 points a game. They might need him to go 50, 60 points to win, but hey, he's there. He's still there. Obviously, UNC coming in as the defender of the title here. Very hot. This would be, by the way, their 3rd consecutive trip to the national championship game, which is pretty darn cool.
That's a tough run to do in the one and done era.
Right. I mean, obviously they've got Joel Berry, the excellent guard, and Luke May is pretty good. They're a pretty good offensive team, but they need to shoot well. Really, I don't love them this year. I thought that they got hot and they earned a 2 seed, but I don't think they're the strongest 2 seed by any means.
Okay.
So I mean, I obviously like them to win here, but I don't like them to go very. I like them to struggle. Just not very high on the Tar Heels. I say that, and other than Coach K and maybe Tom Izzo, Roy Williams probably doesn't get the respect he deserves as a great coach. But like I said, not completely sure they'll be able to win this one. They also don't defend great at the 3-point line. Now, looking ahead, who shoots the 3 very well? Michigan. So if you're not going to defend well at the 3-point line, you better look out against these young teams out here.
Yeah, the one thing that I think with UNC that's so that's concerning, and I even thought about this when they played Duke on Friday night, is the previous week when they'd played, they were up pretty big and just couldn't really hold on to that lead, and Duke started hitting shots. And I think that's something to be concerned about if you are a UNC fan, especially trying to make this run, especially with teams that we were just mentioning at Xavier, Missouri, if they do pull that out and make a run out into the Elite Eight. Michigan, if they get hot, I mean, I think it could be literally lights out for UNC. Houston could potentially do something like that if they were to beat Michigan. I just think there are a lot of teams that could put UNC on upset alert, if that makes sense.
Right. No, I'm with you there pretty hard. But I mean, that's an interesting bracket because I don't think when you look over that bracket, it's a balanced bracket, but it doesn't necessarily have the heavyweights. Assuming Xavier doesn't figure it back out a little bit, maybe doesn't have the heavyweights. I don't know.
No. I mean, it'll be interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how it goes. I think Xavier could make a bit of a run, but it is an interesting bracket there. But we move on to the next region that we have. We got the East with Villanova leading the way. Break this one down for me. I mean, is this a favorable bracket for them? I mean, we'll get to some of the teams in there, but I think it's an interesting of the 4. I think it's the most dynamic that could come out.
I actually think their biggest test is in their own side, and that's West Virginia.
Yeah.
Because trying to prepare for them pretty quickly is difficult. I mean, they're a super aggressive squad with a great head coach and Bob Huggins. And Javon Carter is a guy that I've watched be absolutely excellent.
Yep.
Excellent. You have to limit turning the ball over and stall him, but they're tough to see on a quick turnaround where you don't get a lot of film, or a lot of time to get your guys locked in.
Yeah.
I'm really nervous about them. I actually think the second best team is Texas Tech, and we'll get to them as we go down the bracket.
Sure.
I still like Nova a lot, though, here. Obviously in this first game, quite a bit. They've got a number. So the weird thing is they've got 4 guys that have NBA aspirations, except you just don't hear a lot about it.
Yeah.
They're very tight. They're very close knit. They seem to play very well. When one has a good game, one has a bad game, the others pick it up. And when they're hot, they're unbeatable.
Yep.
If they're shooting well enough, you won't touch them.
No.
In my no team, and not even Virginia, I think, when they're hot, because they've got such good 3-point shooters out there. So,
I think that is just the thing is when they get hot, and can they sustain over and over and over. But yeah, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
But we leave it.
I have them beating LIU Brooklyn there in the first round.
Yeah. I mean,
didn't figure that out by my
pretty straightforward. The next game, though, I'm actually really excited for this one. The Virginia Tech Alabama game, 8-9. Virginia Tech had a pretty good year. They've beaten UVA. Alabama, of course, the darlings of championship week. I think this is going to be a fun one to watch out for.
Right. I think a lot of people would like to see Sexton against Villanova.
Yeah.
Right. Like that'd be really fun. He's fantastic. He's got what Trae Young had to start the year. So it's got to be superstar level from him, though, because Vatek under the radar a little bit. They're very athletic, and they can play great. They're pretty tenacious on defense. They've beaten Virginia, Duke, and UNC, which is obviously very, very impressive, but a little inconsistent as well. If you can exploit their size, you can beat Vatek, because they're not necessarily huge. So I think that's going to be a potential problem. No. Which is why I think they think Nova takes them. I actually like Alabama here, though. I think Sexton stays hot, and I think they win again. Avery Johnson, there's a big name coach there, and they move on to Villanova, to what should be a really fun matchup. Watching Brunson and Bridges guard Sexton in that very that very fast-paced Alabama team. You hear me, Jordy? Jordy, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, my internet went wonky.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry about that, bud. The last thing I had was saying hi.
I'm losing you again, dude. Still struggling.
Oh my God.
You there?
I can't get players. Keep this open. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Oh, awesome. There we go. Cool. I think my internet connection got better. Yeah, so the last thing I had heard was you talking about Sexton staying hot.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll just start right back in.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Sexton's going to stay hot here in this first game here, take Virginia Tech down, and then set up that star-studded matchup for him against Nova. I don't think the rest of the team has enough to drag them through and make that huge upset against arguably the one or two best, top two team in the nation. Sure. But it's going to be fun to watch, and it's going to be fun to watch. Hopefully, Mikal Bridges might match up a little bit on Sexton, and there's a big matchup there for those reasons. So it could be really fun. Could be a really fun game to watch.
No, for sure. And so you're taking Bama?
Yeah, I'm going to take Bama.
Yeah, I am too. We move on though to the 5-12 seed. We mentioned them before. The West Virginia Mountaineers. They'll be taking on Murray State as a 12 seed. I do like West Virginia a lot in this game. I'm going to take them. But one thing I would be weary of is West Virginia's tendency to blow leads. You're going to hear about that a lot, and some of it's a little overblown, but they have had periods where they do dry out
Right.
shooting wise.
Mm-hmm. No, well, not only that, Murray State 14-1 in its past 15 games.
Yeah.
So wicked hot. Beat Wright State by 19. Who's in the tournament? Lost by Auburn to only 4. Pretty respectable. That's going to be that's going to be a tough game. I don't think that's a walk in the park at all. I think West Virginia is going to do what they've done the whole time and battle. They win it, but I think that could be a really fun game. That one of those 5-12 matchups there that could have some tough. It could be a late tough game for West Virginia and hurt them if they win onto the next round.
No, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. I think as much as I'd want to see West Virginia make a run, I just think at some point, whether it's against Murray State, if it's in the next round, which we're going to talk about the two teams there, or even in the Sweet 16, whoever comes out there, most likely, I would think Nova, but I just don't know if they have the consistency to really just put something together in terms of a run.
Yeah, right.
But that matchup is the 4 seed Wichita State Shockers against the number 13 Thundering Herd of Marshall. Marshall, I don't think is one to really completely sleep on. I think they'll make it a little closer, but I do like Wichita State here.
Yeah, I mean, Marshall beat Middle Tennessee State to get into the tournament. One of the biggest upsets of the year, obviously, cost Middle Tennessee State. People thought they'd at least get an at-large, but cost them a bid there, which was wild. And Wichita State, though, might be one of the deepest squads that Greg Marshall has had. They're 6 players averaging over 8 points, which in college basketball is pretty darn good. What's his name? Landry Shamet, I think it is.
Shamet, yeah.
6'4" point guard, could be a first-round pick, top 5 offense. But the problem with me is, and looking past this round, their defense is not, but sub 100 in the NCAA. So while I think they might be able to outscore a lot of guys, they're going to play a very good West Virginia team who might be able to just simply outscore them, which is one of the reasons why I like Nova, is because I think West Virginia and Wichita have some serious deficiencies that you can expose. They're not great balanced teams in that regard, but it'll be interesting. They're going to be fun. Assuming we get Wichita State versus West Virginia, that's going to be a fun game to watch.
That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. By the way, Wichita State moves conferences. Now they're 4th seed.
State could make a run.
I lost you again.
Let me know if you can hear me.
I can hear you now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what the fuck's up with my Wi-Fi, man. I'm sorry. Yeah. So I mean, at least we were moving on to the next game of Florida St. Bonaventure. So I'll just introduce that, and then normally what happens with this is your stuff normally comes through, and it's my shit that doesn't connect. So hopefully that's the case here, and I'll just do some editing magic.
Right. No, you're good. Okay. Where'd you lose me?
You were talking about the potential Wichita State West Virginia matchup, so I'll just introduce as if we're going on to the Florida winner of St. Bonaventure UCLA game.
Okay, so you had just started talking about that then?
No, I hadn't. I had made a comment on it, and I thought I didn't realize that I had lost you.
Okay.
So you were talking about it, which I'm sure when I listened
Well,
back to it.
I had never gotten to Florida. I was still just clearing up.
No. That's what I mean is that I didn't even start talking about Florida either. I'm just going to introduce it as if we were moving on.
No, I got you. Okay, go ahead. Move on. Yep, you're good.
Yeah, so we move on. Number 6, Florida, taking on the 11 seed winner of the St. Bonaventure UCLA game. I do like Florida a lot in this one, but I think depending on who comes out of it, I mean, you had the Bonnies, I had UCLA. They could put Florida in a little bit of a tussle in this one. So I'm going to take Florida, but I'm going to say watch out, especially if it is St. Bonaventure.
Right. I mean, here's the thing. Florida is good enough to beat. They beat Cincinnati and Gonzaga. They beat Auburn. They beat Alabama, and they beat Kentucky because they've got 4 shooters who make over 39% from 3. They're very, very fast. They can run around the court. But when they're not shooting well, they lost to Ole Miss, Vanderbilt, and South Carolina.
Yeah.
So when I see that, I say this is a highly inconsistent team that could get hot and make a run. They didn't get hot in the tournament, though, the SC tournament. And I like the Bonnies to upset them here because I just think they're going to go cold. Now, if they go hot, I mean, they go hot, they're kind of a dangerous team. I wouldn't necessarily want to meet them. But I like St. Bonnie's in another upset win, and they'll move on to face another really good team in the next round here. But if not, Florida could be really fun to watch. So I'm ready for that too.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think they could. I mean, if you're right, if they get hot, I think they could go for a nice little run. Right. Especially with Texas Tech and Stephen F. Austin. I'm not going to pull the full upset alert or hammer that button, but I think that could be a very, very close game. I am going to take Texas Tech, but I would not sleep on Stephen F. Austin if I were if you're betting the line. I'll say that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm bummed about this because I actually really like Stephen F. Austin. I think think of Press Virginia that Bob Huggins used to run.
Yeah,
they're really aggressive defensively, led the nation in turnovers. They're a fun, which is not necessarily a good thing. Thing is, I'm really big on Texas Tech. They've been missing a few players of late, and that's really hurt them. Zach Smith and Keenan Evans. Zach Smith, 6'8" forward, very versatile. Keenan Evans, All-American candidate, has been out. With him healthy and a strong defensive Texas Tech defense, I really like them, even against SFA. So Stephen F. Austin may give them a run for their money, which kind of gets you revved back up, right, when you have that tough matchup early, and it gets you rolling moving forward. So I like them here a lot to come out of that bracket.
Yeah, I would say I'd say they win there. I think, again, depending on how Florida does, I'd say watch out. I don't necessarily think they're a lock to the Sweet 16.
Right.
Moving on, though, Arkansas, who I'm very excited to watch in this tournament, taking on Butler. One where, I mean, those two, I mean, I feel like this could be easily, a much higher seeded matchup in this one, but I think it's going to be a great game. I am going to take Butler in this one. I think as much as I like Arkansas, I saw some solid play out of Butler, and I think I'm going to take that one in the minor upset.
That's really tough. I hate to pick against Butler because they're Butler. They've always had this attitude ever since Brad Stevens. But Arkansas is interesting. First of all, they got a big guy, Daniel Gafford, who one of the best NBA prospects Arkansas has had in a while. They shoot decent from outside. Now, they don't really have an abundance of amazing wins. They did beat Oklahoma and Tennessee, but they also lost a lot of games. They lost 8 games by double digits. Ooh. So who are they? Are they just a solid SEC squad? I don't know, but I like them here to beat Butler and move on to the next round and then face a team that I'm not very high on because of that great matchup with their big guy inside. So I'm going to take Arkansas. We're going to differ here. I'm going to go Arkansas here.
Okay. All right. Well, that's what it's for. We move on to the last one. Purdue versus Cal State Fullerton. I think it's pretty straightforward with Purdue winning it. I mean, break it down a little bit in the matchup and kind of just Purdue's outlook on this Eastern Regional.
I mean, Cal State kind of just jumped in. It's their third ever NCAA tournament, which we love. They're going to play a Purdue team that has more balance than most teams, ever. They have the big guy Haas, the 7'2" stud inside, who's also a decent enough free throw shooter. Both Carson Edwards and Vincent Edwards, who are not related, are excellent. They're very I got to say it. Yeah. They're a very old squad. Edwards is a sophomore, Carson, but Vincent and Haas and their point guard. I think they've got a bunch of seniors and juniors on the team. But here's what happens. Teams play small ball against Purdue, and that's how you beat them. Mm-hmm. You pull Haas away from the basket. I don't like this team very much for whatever reason. They went really cold against Michigan. They almost lost to Penn State and Rutgers. I think they're going to win here, and then I think they're going to struggle. And I don't know what it is, because on paper this team is almost NBA-like with its lineup. But I just think if you go small ball against them, like Michigan can, you're going to really struggle. And I think Texas Tech brings that. I think Nova brings that. So even if they get by Arkansas, which I'm not even sure they will, they're going to have a tough test coming up right away.
Yeah, that was one I really wanted to. I'm glad you brought it up. I should say. I think they have a tough run of all the 2 seeds in the tournament. I think. Mm-hmm. Them and maybe UNC probably are the most upset prone within the first weekend of the tournament before trying to get to the Sweet 16. I think Butler could give them trouble. I think Arkansas definitely will give them trouble if they beat Butler. So I'd watch out for Purdue. I don't think it's a Lehigh beat Duke type of situation with them, but they could either barrel through into the Elite Eight or struggle to make the Sweet 16.
Right. I agree with that there. And but it should be a good bracket nonetheless. And that kind of brings us right to the last bracket, the Midwest. We'll start with Kansas against our hometown Penn Quakers.
Yes.
Penn won today over Harvard. They had nothing to lose against the favorite Harvard Crimson. Was it Harvard Crimson? Right?
Yeah, the Crimson.
I'm right. Yeah,
they actually were, despite being the 2 seed, they were a 2.5 point favorite going into the game.
That must have changed. Okay.
Barely covered.
Yeah, this Kansas team, they're not a bad team, but I don't think this is one of the best Kansas squads that we've seen. So we'll see. And they lost their big guy, whose name I won't even attempt, to an MCL sprain. Will he be back? Devontae Graham is great, but I don't know if this is Bill Self's best squad.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah, I mean, they can make a run, but I think you're right. I think there are a couple incompletions within the way that their lineup's constructed that I think they make a pretty good run they at least get to the Sweet 16, probably make the Elite Eight, just looking at their side of the Midwest bracket.
Right.
But yeah, I think once you start getting really whoever comes out of that other side, whether it's Michigan State, Duke, we're going to talk about these guys, but I'd even say maybe even TCU. I think that's when you start getting into some of the struggles. So I'd obviously take them over Penn, but I'd keep an eye out as the tournament evolves.
Right. No, exactly. I don't think they have the strongest 8-9 seeds. Seton Hall had some good wins, but they also lost to Georgetown and Rutgers.
Yeah.
NC State's actually got some pretty good wins. They beat Arizona, Duke, Clemson, North Carolina, and Penn State I'll throw in there as well. They're a good team, though. They've got a 7-footer who makes 3-pointers. Omer Yurtseven is his name. Tough name there. I like them over Seton Hall here, and I like them to at least put a little bit of a scare in Kansas. No. So we'll see what happens. How do you feel about that one?
Yeah, I agree with you. You hit the nail on the head with both of them. I want to like them both a lot. we've really talked about a lot with the 8-9 games of that all the other ones can give their respective one seeds trouble. I think as much as I want to like Seton Hall, which I'm going to take them in the game, but as much as I like them, and I like NC State too, they both had some of those suspect losses that, on paper give you some questions as to when they're getting into the tournament. Obviously they had enough signature wins to get an 8 and a 9 seed respectively, but I'm going to take Seton Hall here. I think they've got a little more firepower to take down the Wolfpack, but the second round, unfortunately, I just don't think it's going to be that close against Kansas.
Mm-hmm. Now we jump right into the next game, another 5-12 matchup, Clemson versus New Mexico State. Give me your thoughts here on this one.
Yeah, so Clemson's one that I really do want to like, but I've seen a lot of inconsistencies out of them. I think, just looking at it now and sort of how it breaks down, they can put up points, but they've also had a spotty track record in terms of within their conference. 11-7, they're 3-4 against the top 25, so they at times can have a little bit of trouble. New Mexico State, on the other hand, can put up points. They have a solid defense. I'm going to take them. That's going to be my 12/5 in this one. So I'm going with New Mexico State coming out of I believe it's the Mountain West is that they won.
You're right.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to take them as as my 12/5 in the tournament.
No, it is, let's see. No, it's the WAC.
Oh, they're the WAC. They're the WAC.
Yeah, look out for Zach Lofton. Just under 20 points a game, just under 40% from three. Pretty decent defense. And the problem with Clemson is they lost their number 2 scorer, as well as like a very versatile defender in Dante Gratham. He's 6'8" forward. And since then, 2-4 to finish out the regular season. Very good defense, but I'm not sure they're going to score well enough. With him on the floor, they shot 56.6% from twos. Without him, 45.4. I mean, that's more than 10 percentage points lower. That's a huge deal.
Yep.
So I think there's some concerns for them there.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's going to be a fun game, I think. We move on, though. Auburn versus the College of Charleston. Charles Barkley's alma mater. We talked about it before. A little bit lower seeded than you might have thought. They had a pretty good year and a very stacked SEC. Lost that really great game against Alabama in the SEC tournament. I like Auburn here. I like them to potentially give Kansas some trouble in the Sweet 16. I'm going to take the Tigers.
Right. I like Auburn here too. I think they're a pretty good team. And another guy that had some injury issue here, so we'll see what happens. They lost their big shot blocker. But I do like them here to beat Charleston. I don't think it's much of a matchup in that regard. Nothing against Charleston, but I do think they win pretty quickly there.
Yeah. So pretty straightforward with.
But they are pretty. By the way, they are pretty hot.
Yeah, they are hot, and that's what you need. That's what you need in the NCAA tournament. We move on though. The 6 seed TCU Horned Frogs taking on the winner of the Arizona State Syracuse game. Mainly because I'm shocked Arizona State and Syracuse are in the tournament. I'm taking TCU. I think they are a little problematic. The Horned Frogs are. So I wouldn't be surprised if, especially Syracuse, if they win, gives them trouble or even pulls out the upset. But I am going to take the Horned Frogs in this one.
Yeah, I like the Horned Frogs here too. Remember, Jamie Dixon coaches here, the former Pitt coach, who kind of got run out of town because he underperformed, which I was shocked by. So I do like TCU here over what I do think are two very weak, that we've talked about it pretty extensively, teams. Whoever wins, I have Syracuse. Once again, Syracuse playing that 2-3, they can cause problems for anybody, but I still like TCU in this game.
Yeah. I do think that I think they could be a little inconsistent, but we'll see. They face the winner of 3 seed Michigan State versus the 14 seed Patriot League champion Bucknell Bison. Michigan State, I think, like you talked about before, they have the worry of being a little cold coming into the tournament from literally just having to wait an extra week. But I do think Tom Izzo wants to, take Sparty out, and make sure they don't come out flat. I think they're going to come out hard. They're going to put it to Bucknell. I wouldn't necessarily count out the Bison right away. We,
have history.
Personally seeing them play, against Lehigh, we've seen them do pretty well. But I am going to take Michigan State here.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to take Michigan. I think this is a little. I think the committee here is kind of disrespectful to Bucknell and the Patriot League, giving them a 14 seed. I thought they've done enough over their history, at least as a program, to maybe slide into like that 12 or even 11 seed. I think it's kind of a shame.
They were a 9 seed 12 years ago. Do you know that?
No, but
in the 2006
at one point.
In the 2006 tournament, they were a 9 seed because they lost they went like 25-3 or something like that.
You think at this point, like I said, I know they're not in the same mid-major conference as some of the other guys, but you think maybe they get somewhere there. Michigan State, though, this is a stacked Tom Izzo team. We obviously know Miles Bridges, 6'7", shoots the three. Jaren Jackson Jr. is 6'11", who can shoot from anywhere, and he was the best defensive player in the league this year for the Big Ten. Nick Ward, a great rebounder. Cassius Winston. I mean, they've got guys. They bring a bunch of big guys off the bench. They're a really, really good team. Boy, actually, you could argue got underseeded, but they're a 3 seed. Of course, the committee couldn't help themselves. And I know we're going to get there shortly, but they went ahead and matched up Tom Izzo against arguably one of the only coaches that's better than him in all of college basketball. Yeah. But before we get there, how about number 7 versus number 10? Rhode Island versus Oklahoma.
I think so. One, I understand why Rhode Island isn't a higher seed, but I'm a little bummed to see them at a 7.
Yeah.
They had a really good season, but they've had some bad losses. The one that sticks out was to St. Joe's, who I was hoping could have pulled the magic again in the Atlantic 10 tournament. But Oklahoma comes in, and we talked about it a little bit, but I'm a little shocked that they weren't a little lower. I think I could have seen them being one of the last 4 in, especially the way that the committee pulled their strings on how they picked the last 4 in. But I think also, you mentioned it of trying to set up trying to set matchups. I think they want to try to see either Rhode Island, this sort of feel good Atlantic 10 story, having a great year, or see Trae Young take on Duke in the second round.
Right.
I think they want to, especially with Grayson Allen, dirty Grayson Allen being back, I think they want to maybe get a little Trae Young, Grayson Allen rivalry going, if for as short as it can be with Grayson Allen being a senior.
Right.
But I think in terms of this game, I think that the thing with Oklahoma, it is so dependent on if Trae Young gets hot, and Rhode Island is, they're pretty solid when it comes to defense. They're average 68.5 points allowed, a little less than that. And I think that they can, they could shut down Oklahoma and really, put up some points. I'm going to take Rhode Island in this one.
See, I'm a sucker for the story. And I think Trae Young goes off and just reminds us, hey, I know we've been sliding for quite a while here, but
that's my one thing too. They're really cold coming into the tournament.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that's what occurs because I want to see Trae Young against Grayson Allen. So I've got
that'd be great.
I've got Oklahoma pulling the upset here and going to the next round, which leads us to number 2 Duke versus number 15 Iona. Thoughts? Well, I'll give you my thoughts right away.
Yeah,
Iona plays fast. They want to run up and down the court. That's what they want to do. Which normally I would say, that's something that could surprise a top seed. The Gales moving around, running quickly. The problem is they play so fast they almost forget to play defense at times, and they don't play great interior defense. And have you seen Marvin Bagley? Because he's going to spread you inside. He's impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So
their defense lets up a lot of points. I think Bagley has a fucking day against these guys.
Mm-hmm. And I made the comment that Villanova, if they're shooting well, can beat anybody. Duke may be the only team that I think actually could beat Villanova, even if they were shooting so well. They toyed with North Carolina in the second half of that game where they won 49-29. They outscored North Carolina. I think Duke, assuming Grayson Allen keeps his head screwed on correctly, with who else they have on that roster, boy, they're going to be a tough out. You just assume Coach K is going to get together which, by the way, leads us to a great potential Sweet 16 matchup of Tom Izzo at Michigan State versus Coach K and Duke, which would be crazy fun.
That would be a lot of fun.
It would be my game of the weekend, without a doubt, if that happened.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. I mean, yeah, so we can make quick picks since just to kind of reset everything with what's going on at the Thunder blog. We have spring training previews coming out this week. Probably no hockey and hoops hour just because of that and because March Madness is here. So make sure to stay tuned in with all the blogs that come out and whatnot that me, Matt, and some new writers are throwing up. But yeah, let's, I guess, rapid fire, just pick who we think are coming out into the Sweet 16 of these matchups.
So you want me to pick, like, you want me to take my Sweet 16 top to bottom?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got Virginia playing Arizona in the Sweet 16. So I have Arizona beating Kentucky. I've got Tennessee playing Cincinnati.
I agree with that as well.
Okay. I've got Missouri.
Ooh.
I do. I have them upsetting Xavier playing Gonzaga.
Okay.
And I have Michigan playing UNC.
I'd agree with that as well.
Nova, West Virginia.
No problem there.
So I've got Texas Tech, and I'm going to jump on another upset bandwagon here. I've got Arkansas. I got the Razorbacks taking out Purdue in a big upset early and making it to the Sweet 16 this year.
Okay.
And I've got Kansas and Auburn. And then I've got Michigan State and Duke, my favorite Sweet 16 game.
I like that a lot. The only one I disagree with, I actually have Xavier and Ohio State in the West. I think we talked about it before with Xavier and Missouri. I think they at least get hot enough that they can make it into the second weekend. Ohio State versus Gonzaga. I think Ohio State's got the tools to be able to do it. Gonzaga can put up a ton of points. So I think as a 4 seed, they're a little underrated. But I think Ohio State's defense and their ability to just kind of spread the wealth around, I think they're able to get through and make the Sweet 16.
Okay, all right. I mean, once again, I'm sure when we retouch this next week, it'll all look different, and none of us.
We're gonna be dead wrong. We're gonna have fucking like NC Central pull off the first ever upset. And just complete madness.
Yeah, I mean I would say if I had to give you, I'll give you. I mean, obviously Missouri has to be a dark horse for me. I also really like Texas Tech, assuming their guys are healthy. Teams to watch out for. But there's a lot of good teams, not great, good teams out there. There's not a lot of week 2 or 3 seeds that I look at and go, I would really want to play Tennessee. Or I really want to face Purdue. There's just some really strong teams out there.
Yeah. No, I would agree. I'd absolutely agree with that. I mean, yeah, it's gonna be fun. One thing Greg and I talked about a couple weeks ago, just the fact that there is no clear and concise, Tiger versus the field, if you will, which we can talk about that in a second. One clear and concise team that basically everybody's gunning for. Do you think it's possible that we get a nutty first couple days that kind of just make the second weekend this run-of-the-mill top seeds are there and end up playing each other? Do you think something like that happens where we get a bunch of ones and twos?
Well, I don't think we're going to get a lot of ones and twos. I would expect a lot of 1s through 4s, I guess.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I don't have a lot of mid majors that I stare at and go, oh yeah, like they've got a guy or they're really locked in. Also, I think there's less mid majors in the field because we lost a St. Mary's or a Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we kind of lost some of those excellent mid majors.
Yeah. No, the only reason why I asked that, it has it is a very 2012 vibe to this. Not necessarily the bracket itself, but the season had just this vibe of, there was a revolving door up at the top of the rankings, and we had, it wasn't really until the last couple of weeks that it seemed like Virginia was this lock to get the overall #1 seed. And then, you had some crazy tournaments, but then others were pretty run of the mill. It just kind of seems like we talk about a lot when we talk college football of that it lives off of just the complete chaos. And there's some point where it bubbles up and explodes. And I just think that we're getting to that tipping point.
Right. Well, I will say this. I do think the top 4 teams, I do think Virginia and Villanova separated them. I won't say top 4. I think Virginia and Villanova clearly separated themselves from the rest of the field, though. I think they're head and shoulders above Xavier and Kansas. I think they proved it all year. And so in that case, I do think that if you're putting money, it's those two versus the field. And I'd feel pretty confident that one of those two gets there this year. But once again, that's why it's March Madness and crazy things happen, because there have been better teams than this Villanova and this Virginia squad that have lost in the first or second round.
Yeah. I mean, the one that always pops back to me just because I followed them so much in high school was the 2006 Duke team. That was JJ Redick's senior year, where they went like 31-2 or something in the regular season. And then they lost to Glenn Big Baby Davis in the Sweet 16 at LSU. They just thwomped on that Duke team. But that Duke team had JJ Redick, they had Sheldon Williams, they had Greg Paulus, who was a great, the classic, Duke player, the annoying white guy that Grayson Allen has now taken the spiritual successor to, and that ended up playing quarterback at Syracuse.
That's true, he did. He's actually pretty decent too.
He was. That Syracuse team, I think, made a bowl game. But yeah, that UConn team from that same year who lost to George Mason, however it was that same tournament. But you hit the nail right on the head. There's a lot better teams that have lost much more mortal locks, and I'm so excited that the tournament's here. It's one of my favorite weeks of the year. It's one of the best. It's one of the best 2-week spans in sports. From when the championship week starts to like basically the end of the first weekend of the tournament. Like I wish there's some way I could just live on the floor of like some casino in Las Vegas, just watching basketball.
Well, look, I mean, I'll have it on in the office somewhere, of course.
Oh yeah. Oh man. 2 years ago as a heads up to you, and as a quick background, I used to work at the same company Matt works for. They had to send out an email to the entire office saying, please do not stream the basketball games. We all understand half the people here went to Villanova, but we we can't have you guys overloading the server watching basketball.
Well, I can tell you what, I got my hands on the remote for the big TV.
Yeah.
So we'll be happily using that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. if no one in your office lets you put on the college basketball tournament, I mean, good Lord. Like, what are you doing?
Pretty tough.
Yeah, it's pretty tough, I mean, but yeah, before we wrap things up, we do have to mention, because today was one of the more wild Sundays that we've had since football ended, and probably even to some NFL Sundays from this past year. You had the tournament, you had the end of the conference championship week, you had the selection show, but in between that, we had Tiger motherfucking Woods get so goddamn close to forcing a playoff. I still can't believe it, Matt. I was screaming at my TV between that and the Phillies signing Jake Arrieta. There was a half an hour where I might not have survived. My heart might have exploded from excitement.
Well, it was definitely a great performance by Tiger. Obviously, couldn't get it totally done. Thought he made a mistake on the 18th, not hitting a bigger club, simply because it just put him so far back on that really difficult pin location to get close. Yeah. So he really had chances all day.
Yeah.
To go low.
He had a couple big misses early on, and he almost chipped it in on the 15th hole. And holy shit, that was the first time I even threw it up on Twitter of just like, I screamed so loud that I think I scared my dog. And it was right around then too that the Phillies signed Jake Arrieta. He has the amazing putt on 17.
Right.
I mean, if you're still questioning if Tiger's back, whether or not these guys are afraid of him, which has always been kind of that thought of, Tiger versus the field and why it doesn't exist anymore. back surgeries aside. He's definitely back, and you could tell just in the way that he was carrying himself when he had that little smirk after he nailed the 40-footer on 17. I
Right.
mean, holy.
Yep.
I cannot wait. He's playing next week at Bay Hill. He's playing in the Masters, and Eldrick owns Augusta. That's his joint.
Yeah, no, I agree. So we'll see. I mean, I want to see another decent. I don't care if he wins next week, but I want to see him contend again as he gets geared up for the Masters.
You need to.
And it's good to see his putter coming back and his short game coming back, because that was something, even when he came back from injury, it's the hardest thing to get back. It's the last thing you figure out.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can continue. And you know what, I'm going to be honest with you, the young guys are making it easy for him because they're not even competing in these tournaments right now. I mean, they're playing, but they're not competing. Jordan Spieth, missed the cut. So
Jordan did, Rory did.
Right?
Guys that he knows really well, Duffner. I mean, Justin Rose, and then he'll part. So there are. I mean, I mean, not to say that they're not going to compete, but there are open opportunities for Tiger to make a run.
Right. Yep. So we'll see. I mean, pretty excited about it. So
we're also
let's get golf back and running again.
Oh yeah, I cannot wait. Oh my God, I cannot wait for the season to really get underway. And with these bigger tournaments, especially leading in that kind of final push to the Masters, which gets, if you're not really a huge golf person, it just kind of gets thrown by the wayside with baseball, on the cusp of being back, college basketball tournament, the push to the playoffs and the pros for basketball and the NHL. It kind of gets pushed aside. And I think Tiger, like he did the first, when he first came onto the scene, I think he made a very good contribution for golf.
Right.
But I think that's going to do it for us. Matt, is there anything else that you wanted to break down?
No, that's all I got. I'm just excited. Can't wait. Let's get it going.
Cannot wait. Let's get it going. But as always, make sure that you go check us out on the social medias. I'm at Jordo9 for my personal Twitter, at ThunderBLG for the blog. Matt is at Matt DeStefano21. Thunderblogsports.com. Like I said, make sure to check out all of our blog posts covering
and
all.
You know what? Beyond the blog posts, you got to start taking advantage of some of the fantasy offerings that we're doing out there.
Yes.
I know there's some potential baseball fantasy in the works.
Yes,
as well
actually.
As ongoing golf going down. So
yeah, the ongoing golf with Sports Geek. We have to see if he's doing baseball again.
Okay.
Because that's actually a lot of fun doing the day. Because we are doing a league, and if you're interested in joining our fantasy league, I'm also going to plug this at the top, my little intro. So you probably heard that if you're listening to the podcast and not us live. But
hear it again.
Yeah, hear it again. We are going to do a league. If you're interested in playing with us, shoot us a DM on either Twitter or Instagram. Again, ThunderBLG on Twitter, Thunderblog Sports on Instagram. It's going to be on Yahoo. Auction draft should be a lot of fun. But the Sports Geek with fantasy baseball, this one's actually a lot of fun too, because you have the opportunity every single night to win money. It's basically how it works. It's head to head. So if Matt and I are playing each other last year it was only 10 people, but who knows how many would play this year. So let's just take 10. Matt and I could finish 7th and 8th respectively, and just the winner between the two of us gets a win. But the kicker is that if you they play it on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you get in first place on any of those nights, you get $10.
Not bad.
It's like $100 to join, and the winning payout's pretty nice. But I still got back like $50 last year, and I didn't even make the playoffs. I mean, it was pretty nice that way. It makes you want to, especially too, like, because it's best 2 out of 3 Monday, Tuesday, Friday. So if you've either won or lost, like, it incentivizes you to still set a lineup on Friday. So it's pretty nice. I do have to warn, at least for myself, there were times where I was on vacation or went on vacation on a Friday and just completely forgot to do that. I know that's actually happened to both of us with golf,
right?
A couple weeks ago. But it's a ton of fun. We'll keep more details as we find them out if that is going on. But make sure to just keep an eye out for us on Thunderblog Sports. We'll make sure to plug all that good stuff. But Matt, thank you as always, especially through some of the technical difficulties. Hopefully I can edit those out, and did edit them out well. on the podcast.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm sure it will
Not
be,
concerned about it.
but yeah, I cannot wait for the action in the tournament, and I know you can't either. But that's going to do it for us. For my man Matty D, I am the G-Man. Have a good night, everybody. Thanks again.